Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the final episode of Nine Lives Season 2. I cannot believe that it is the final episode, and it's a bit of an end of an era for me because this is the last episode I'm recording in this studio. So the next time you see me, I'll be in a custom-built Nine Lives studio. Which is so exciting. And I just wanted to take a minute to say thank you, everyone, for, the incredible support of this season. It's been a whirlwind. It's reached audiences I never thought it would. And it's done more for me in my self-esteem and confidence and career than I could ever truly imagine. This podcast got me a book deal. It's been the most beautiful lesson in discipline, consistency, doing things when you don't feel like doing them, even when you're tired, because you've got people who are relying on you. And I have loved every single second. And I've just read through a lot of your emails. I asked some of you to email in with how the podcast has affected you and what you've enjoyed about it. And I'll be replying to those shortly, but thank you for your time, your energy, your presence here. It's, not a day goes by that I'm not internally entirely grateful for everything this podcast has given me. And if it's okay with you guys, and I'll have a little bit of an honest chat with you now about my health, but I'm going to need to take a little bit of a longer break than I thought between seasons because I'm not very well at the moment. Having some issues with burnout professionally and just physically not very well. And I need to take something off my plate. So the podcast will be on a little bit of a hiatus. I say hiatus, it's probably only going to be 3 weeks, but still, that's going to be, it's going to be time that I can take back for me to sort of rest and recuperate. And I think podcasting is amazing. Podcasting about the subjects that I podcast about is very tiring. I didn't really realize just how much sharing so much can be such a drain on energy sometimes. And it powers me up, but it also, I have to respect the fact that it's also difficult. So, yeah, I will be back bigger and better than ever. But for now, I hope that these 2 seasons will serve you well through the break and that you can stick with me and be excited for the next season because it's going to be epic. So thank you for being here. Today, I just wanted to have a little chat. Honestly, I'm going to answer some questions. I set out a little thing on Instagram, just like a little AMA to wrap up anything that I haven't covered in this season. And then I'm going to end by reading you some of my poetry. So hopefully this is a little bit more of an informal, chatty one today. So let's dive into some questions. So there's a lot of different questions here. I'm going to kind of go through some of the FAQs and hopefully give some good advice. So Sarah asks, how to transition from counting calories. This is a big one. This is something I've done with a lot of clients. So I don't count calories. I just had Lucy Davis on the podcast. She also doesn't count calories. I think a lot of fitness people don't. It's definitely not something that should be forever. I personally find it very difficult when people see food as numbers constantly because that's not what food is to me. This is an exercise in releasing control. Because when you're counting calories obsessively or constantly, it's a control thing because you're trying to figure out how to control your food intake and you have this need to understand everything and know what the value of all the food is that's going into your body is. But when you release control with food and also the outcome of that, it's the most freeing experience in the world. Like my body changes all the time. It fluctuates. I gain fat, I lose fat, I gain muscle, I lose muscle because sometimes I'm really hungry, sometimes I'm less hungry, sometimes I'm running loads, sometimes I'm injured. But releasing control and releasing the need to control my physique or food has been the most liberating experience. As long as my legs are strong enough to carry me up and down the mountains that I one day want to climb, As long as I can get on the back of a horse and walk along with my friends and family, then I'm pretty happy. Counting calories has become normalized on social media because of the bodybuilding community. And I understand as well there's a lot of endurance athletes that count calories because they need to know they're eating enough, like over 4,000 calories a day. But you don't need it. I think trust and releasing control are two things I wish a lot of people would see as huge pillars of the fitness industry, because without trust, you don't have a lot with yourself. And counting calories for a lot of people at the beginning of their journey is a really important thing because it teaches you about the value of food, but it also can become a slippery slope to obsession. And not only obsession, but not being able to see food as anything other than fuel. Food is joy and culture and taste and color and sharing and memories. And, it's okay to have that in your life as a big part of your life. It's just about managing your expectations around the outcome of that, I think. If there are any accounts you follow that are really big on, showing what I eat in a day is with like body shots before, or obsessive calorie counting, and showing really lean physiques, might be worth a little mute. For example, I follow a lot of chefs and cooks who obviously have nothing to do with fitness. And that's really helped me to see food as what it is, which is joy and color and flavor. And, it can go hand in hand with fitness. It just means that you maybe might not be able to look like a bodybuilder that's just about to get on stage. But is there anything wrong with that? I don't think so. So that would be my advice about transitioning from counting calories. It's a little bit more of a mindset shift rather than like any physical practices. But I've eaten intuitively and will always eat intuitively because that's just what sits best with me. How do you prevent yourself from feeling low after a big goal has been achieved? How do you know what's next? So, I don't think you can prevent yourself from feeling low after a big goal has been achieved. I think naturally in life, there will always be peaks and troughs because, especially when you're working towards such a big goal, and your whole life revolves around working towards it, you achieve it, there's always naturally going to be a little bit of a fall off. Like after Paris and London Marathon, for me, there was just naturally a lull and a low. And this time, the best thing I did was allow it to happen and allow that low to take place, and invite it in and let it be, and not try to force myself to be happy or force myself to book something even more crazy, and just sit in the low for a bit. Like, all spectrums of human emotions are worth feeling. And sometimes sadness can be a really powerful tool. I know that I do some of my best work, when I'm very sad or very joyful. The two are, both really worthy emotions. And I felt a great sadness after London Marathon, and sitting in that, journaling through it, writing some poetry, having a good cry, listening to the Smiths and Radiohead, just letting yourself feel a bit shit, because we cannot be on a level field all the time with feeling good or feeling like, doing this amazing thing, amazing thing, amazing thing. I know I spoke about it in last week's episode with Lucy, but there is importance in slowing down and feeling sad and feeling like you're not achieving all the time, because as humans, we are not built to achieve all the time. We are Mother Earth, and Mother Earth has seasons, and so do we. So you have to honor that. You can't always be summer. There has to be autumn and spring and winter. Right now, I'm in a winter, and I'm going away next week somewhere where they're going to look after my health. They're going to help me look after my health. And I hope to come back with a little bit of a spring, but it's admitting that you're in that winter, that can be where the beautiful thing is. And I know that right now I can't book any races or have any big goals because I just want to look after myself. I want to feel happy. And that's an okay, worthy goal to have as well. So I think trying to not prevent it might be the key, but also surround yourself with family, surround yourself with friends, try to find other things outside of fitness that make you feel good. Um, Because if all of these big things were taken away from you and you weren't working towards something and you weren't in a hyper disciplined state, who would you be and would you be happy? Are big questions to ask. And those are things that I've had to really ask myself recently because of this injury and having to slow down. Like, who am I without all of this? You know, who am I without fitness? And it's been a really freeing thing. Like, it's been so interesting to watch how I've reacted to this because I thought it would be the end of everything. Like, I lost so much muscle over London and Paris that I'd stopped recognizing myself. And then I got injured and now I can't run and I can't really lift heavy. And like, I'm surviving. I'm fine. There's so much more to my life. And I think it's been a really beautiful lesson in the fact that like fitness isn't everything. And I'll always love running and I'll always write poetry about running and it'll always be a huge part of my life. But allowing that lull and that low to come and sitting in it and letting it pass through, not letting it stay, but letting it pass through is really lovely. So just forgive yourself. Let yourself be sad. It's okay. It's all right to feel sad. What is your biggest dream at the moment? My biggest dream is happiness. My biggest dream is not being burnt out and being balanced. That is my biggest dream. I think it's a pretty big one, actually. That's a pretty big goal for me. And I love that you guys have been on this roller coaster through this season of like the race after the race. Will she, won't she? You know, and now it's just stillness. That's what I'm really looking for, stillness and balance and slowing down. And that's my biggest goal. My dream is just contentment and happiness. And I'm figuring that out. I'm still figuring that out. Someone asked, I truly want to know, how are you? How are you doing at this time in your life? I am okay. I'm okay. I've had a really rough patch with my health. I've had to have people kind of intervene and tell me to slow down and focus on Cassia for a little bit. It's very difficult. There's a lot of pressure on me and sometimes it gets too much and I need to take some time out. So that's why I'm going away next week to take that time. But I'm okay. You know, I'm all right. I think it's funny. I know that on the other side of this tough patch, there's a happy Cassia. So I'm just keeping her in mind. I know she's there. I can't quite feel her and I can't see her right now, but I know she's there and I'll get to her. But I'm definitely on autopilot at the moment, and I definitely am struggling with managing my stress. And, you know, I'll always be honest about it because I don't want to sit here and say that all of this comes for free. There is always a price to everything, and I'm learning how to balance still. So I'm okay, and I will be fine. And I know that I will sit here triumphant once again in front of you with new plans and new energies, but I am tired. So that is my honest answer. Okay, this is an interesting one. Tabitha asks, advice on fully accepting yourself, even the parts you don't like aren't attractive or value. So I'd love to answer this with a little bit of a story, an anecdote from my own personal experience through this journey. So obviously I have been through extreme weight loss, and with extreme weight loss comes loose skin. And I have loose skin, about 8 pounds, which is quite a lot on my legs, my arms, my stomach. And I know that people are like, no, you don't, but it's just because I'm not comfortable. I know it's become very normalized to show everything online, but I am quite private about that. So I don't show it, but I do have it, even if you can't see it. And I spent so long hating it and really wishing it was gone. And I didn't find it attractive and I didn't see value in it. But now, strangely, I've arrived at a place where I love it because it takes away the option of vanity for me. I will never know without expensive surgery, which I don't plan on having anytime soon, what it's like to have a flat stomach, what it's like to have abs, what it's like to have toned legs or toned arms. I will never know what that is like naturally. So I can never drive towards that. I can never compare my body because I don't have that option. And that's the beautiful part about things about you can't change or you don't love. They are what make you you, but radically accepting it is the key to confidence. Because I could sit here and say, oh, I'm not attractive because I've got this pooch or I've got this. I'm not going to waste my precious life and my precious time thinking about that or prodding at it or pulling at it in the mirror or looking at my mates, my other fitness mates, and thinking, oh, I wish I looked like them. I wish I had legs like them. I did for a long time do that and I got sick of it. I love the parts of me that I used to deem as unattractive because they make me who I am. They make me different, but they take away the option of extreme vanity and comparison because I'll never be that. And that's just fine. That's okay. There is no such thing as perfect, especially not in bodies or women's fitness. There's no such thing. So as soon as you start releasing that idea and you just let yourself be you, the better. Then you can use those precious, like, oh my God, if I add up the minutes, seconds, and hours that I used to spend picking myself apart in the mirror or wishing I looked a different way or making plans about changing certain things, if I added all those up, I could have been out training. I could have been, running. I could have been in the woods. I could have been reading. That is precious time, my sweet, sweet friends, that you are wasting picking apart a body that only wants to live, that wants to experience, that wants to adventure, that wants to love and be loved. Don't waste your hours picking that apart. Spend those hours investing in your life and investing in adventure. Please, if you do one thing, this is my ask of you for the end of this season, invest your time carefully. Don't invest it into self-hatred or negative self-talk, pulling at yourself, picking at yourself. Please hear my words. I want you, the next time you find yourself doing that, to stop and think, this is not productive to my happiness or my well-being. What can I do that's self-care instead? Can I drop this? Can I go for a run? Can I go for a walk? Can I do some journaling? Can I stop that thought in its track and say, you're beautiful regardless? I love my loose skin. I love that it makes me different. I love that it shows the journey that I've been on. Can you radically do that for me, my friends? I bet you can. That's my ask, okay? Okay, Georgia, and this was quite a common one. Advice on managing your black dog as a business owner, coach, motivating others on bad days. So this is a really, really difficult one. Obviously, living with a mood disorder, I think fitness I find quite easy to manage now with the black dog because he runs with me when I'm running and I can channel a lot of that energy into those endeavors. Business, I find some days almost impossible to show up, to motivate and inspire others when you feel like a chasm of despair is really difficult. I will say that as a coach and the work that I have done with clients is the most life affirming work you'll ever do. Anyone in any kind of service, like people facing service, like psychiatrists, coaches, trainers, anyone, you will know how rewarding it is when your help helps change someone. There's nothing better. So on days when I am feeling really low and I read check-ins and it's like, Cassia, I did this, Cassia, I ran 5K for the first time, or, I challenged this belief, or I left the house, that then powers me up to want to go out and be better for myself. So I think, and anyone who works full time or, over full time will tell you sometimes it's about masking, which I know is not very helpful. And I've only recently learned just how much I was masking in a lot of different ways, from little things like, I know I don't talk about diagnosis, so I'm not going to be too little things that I do, little behavior traits that I have that I was masking growing up that I didn't know were part of my little lovely brain, that I'm learning to unmask now and let be in the light, whether that's around trusted people or it's in business or anything. Like, the more you can bring to your business, I think the better. So little things like, obviously we all know that I love fantasy and getting lost in fantasy worlds and using that to motivate me. I, can turn to my clients and be like, here's a challenge around Joan of Arc. Today we're training like Lord of the Rings. There's And, not that that's a symptom of the black dog, but it's certainly something to do with my own unique flame that then lights other people, which then lights me in turn. On the days where it's really bad, because there are really bad days and there have been a lot of bad days recently, um, some days it's not, I can't. And I will basically do non-negotiable bare minimums, which mean I will reply to my team, reply to clients, because those are people who rely on me, and that is part of my job, is to show up for those people, and the rest is no. This is why I'm not very consistent on social media, and I don't post a lot, and I don't have a lot of posts on my page, because I find it incredibly difficult to show up on that platform. And I don't, on days where I am having really bad thoughts, I'm not posting. I'm just not. And I don't force myself to do it, because that's feeding into the rat race, and it's feeding into the dragon that's eating its tail. And sometimes one of the bravest things you can say is, I can't do this today. I admit defeat, because it's not defeat, is it? Like, it's just our brains are wired differently. But that's a hard one, knowing when to push and when to say it's too much. But I think you'll know. For me, it's when I start to panic. So I'll wake up and I'll have the depression, and it's funny. I know when it's there. I'll wake up and I'll be like, wow, okay, here it is. And I can't. I always know, because my coffee doesn't taste the same, and I don't get the same buzz, and I'm not looking forward to anything, no matter what that day brings, no matter how exciting it is. I don't look forward to anything. That's when I know, fuck, okay, we're having an episode, or maybe it's not an episode, but it's just a bad day. If that then begins to turn into panic and I start becoming quite erratic and hard to manage myself, I know it's time to just do the bare minimum, turn off the phone, close the laptop, and try to manage my mood. Sometimes that means that I then push on and I'll work a day that I feel better on the weekend. So I'll work a Saturday, Sunday, or something like that. But it's a give and take. And I've learned the hard way, because I haven't given myself time off, and I've forced myself to work through depressive episodes that will make you physically ill, will make you sick. So it's about grace. And of course, not everyone has, if you're not self-employed, it's not that easy. I'm talking more about days where it's okay to say my mental illness is a physical illness and should be respected and treated as that by the people in my life. And trying to have those conversations with people is really important. Like when I worked in film, before doing this and before being self-employed, actually every job I had to have really frank conversations with people and say, there are times where I disappear or self-isolate or have a panic attack in the studios. And like, it's always been a barrier to success for me, always. And I do often think, like, gosh, what would I be doing, and how much could I be managing? Could I be doing YouTube? Could I be doing hosting, presenting if I didn't have this? Probably. Yeah. It's kind of heartbreaking when you think about it, but it's just about forgiveness, isn't it? Letting yourself kind of, I'm doing the best I can, but I'm tired. So yeah, sorry. Okay. Nicole asks, do you think you'll have a 10th life? If so, what would it look like? I love starting my Mondays with you. Thank you for listening, lovely one. I do think I'll have a 10th life, actually, because I was just thinking about this. Obviously, this show is called 9 Lives, and I think I've lived 8. I think I hope my 9th will be when I figure out this stress stuff. I think this is very much a chapter that's coming to an end now. I can feel there's a big shift happening in my life, and I've been fighting against it. But now I'm letting it happen, and I'm letting myself slow down and rediscover like what I want for myself. I'm obviously a very passionate person. And I've realized recently that I want to help people in a way that's like deeper. And I think fitness, as much as it's beautiful, is not my true purpose. I think being a psychologist or an author or a researcher, maybe like a I don't know, art gallery owner. No. But there's certainly a 10th life in there. And I imagine, like, when I close my eyes and I think about my life when I'm like 60 or 70, it is like I'll have a room where I am helping people. I don't know what I'm going to be doing in that room, but I know we're going to be talking. So I think it probably is a psychologist. But yeah, I think I will have a 10th life. I think my 9th one is coming up. I'm not going to lie. This is a very weird time for me. Sorry if I'm being cryptic, but it's it's a bitter, you know, that bittersweet feeling of like when you know something is about to change and you know it's the right thing, but you're letting go of so much in order to allow that change to happen, like a turning point, you know? So, okay, this is a really common question I got quite a few times. Advice on how to overcome that inner voice doubting yourself mid run, or like the voice that tells you to stop mid run. So, this is something that has come back into my life after the injury because now I'm recovering. I'm only able to run a little bit very slowly, which I'm still very grateful for. That I'm even able to do that is wonderful. But that voice has come back. So, I ran today, I think it was like 3 miles or something, pain free, very grateful. But I that voice, yeah, like around halfway, the voice starts talking about like, I don't think you can do this, or you should just stop and walk, stop and walk, stop and walk. And this used to happen throughout the beginning of my running journey. It was always there. That voice was really loud. The best advice that I can give you is be louder than the voice. So and this is coming back to the affirmations that we spoke about in previous episodes, my favorite ones being, I'm a juggernaut. My other one being, I can run as far as I like. I can run as fast as I like. I am calm, capable, collected, and strong. While I'm running, I'm constantly saying affirmations to myself. It's about practicing being loud and being firm with that voice in your head that tells you, you can't do this, you've got to stop, you've got to walk. No, I don't. I'm strong, I'm calm, I'm capable, I'm collected. I can run as far as I like. I can run as fast as I like. I can't run very fast, okay? In comparison to, let's say, the elites. Um, but I tell myself I can. I can run as fast as I like. I can run as far as I like. And it's just about that, like building those neural pathways, training your brain to really see, no, we can do it. And then when you get to the end of that run, that's another little, okay, I've done it. That's in the bank of memories. The next run, okay, I've done it. That's in the bank of memories. I'm strong, I'm calm, I'm capable. I can run as far, I can run as fast as I like. So just keeping repeating that to yourself, allowing yourself to really, really embody the strength that you deserve to. M asks, if you're having a really bad day mentally, do you still push yourself to work out or run? Yeah, I do. I am a firm believer that action creates energy, and I could name you thousands and probably now hundreds of days where I've woken up in a really bad mood. And I'll tell you one thing about running. It'll never put you in a worse mood unless obviously something awful happens on your run or you get injured. But 90% of the time, that run is going to put you in a better mood. It's going to give you energy. And something I've realized as I get busier is the one thing I cling on to is momentum and energy constantly, because it's what creates energy and momentum for me. And if I stay still, even though I'm staying still a lot more now, at least I'm still walking, I'm still working, I'm still connecting as much as I can. But I do push myself. Yeah, there are days where no, like I can't, because if I'm in that anxious, fearful place, then leaving the house does feel like too much, and that's fine. 90% of the time, I will push myself to go to the gym because sometimes all you need is to feel the sun on your skin and be outside and see another human and move a snail off the path, save its life. And you just think, oh, life is worth living. How funny. Then you get a little coffee and you go to the gym and you think, gosh, that's a bad day turned good. So I would say, yeah, 90% of the time I do always push myself. Okay. Do you have a bucket list? If so, what would be your top 3? Mm-hmm. Okay. 2 of them are races because that's who I am. One is UTMB, Ultra Tour du Mont Blanc, which I would like to do in my 40s. So I've got 9 years to train for that. Beautiful. The other one is Marathon des Sables, which I've been asked to do, which is through the Sahara Desert, 4 days. So I might be doing that this year. If I recover, which I will. So that'll be fine. But that is going to be a life-changing event for me. And then number 3 would be to own a horse. That would be my like top dream, would be to own a horse. Not any kind of fancy horse, just a horse. And I don't know where it'll be. It's definitely not going to be in the UK, is it? But one day, if I'm able to have the horse I always dreamed of, live somewhere far away from anyone, and ride whenever I want and run whenever I want, I think that's when I will have made it, if I know that I can do that. So those would be my top 3 bucket lists. Okay, I got a lot of this question. Did you hesitate to start publicizing your journey? What were your hesitations? And then lots of questions around how do you stay so vulnerable online, or how do you just post without thinking? So everything was an accident with me and being online, and still is. It's a little bit more purposeful now, but it's still all completely accidental. And I think, I'm actually very private, which I know might sound like, no, you're not. But there are parts of my journey that I share. Honestly, it can be very scary because, always my intentions are good, and always my intentions are to help and inspire. That's all I want for people. That's why I do this podcast. It's why I do anything. But there will always be people who see it another way, and it's not my responsibility to control or mitigate other people's reactions. But the feeling you get when you share a story that feels very shameful and feels very embarrassing and very scary, and someone messages and says, because of that, I booked a dentist appointment. Because of that, I called my doctor. Because of that, I told my mum that I'm having suicidal thoughts. Worth it. Worth every hate comment to know that, like, I know for a fact that there might be 2 or 3 people walking around this earth still here because of me, because of things I've shared. Does that not mean I can die happy? How many people get to say that? That's the most beautiful thing in the whole world. And there are parts that I find really difficult. I have to protect myself a lot. I am very private about certain things. There are certain parts of my journey that I share. There are certain parts that I never will. I think as long as you always have those boundaries in place, like I don't share family and friends. That's just a boundary for me that makes me feel confident in what I do. And as long as you're true and authentic to yourself, like, my content has changed a lot over the last year. I'm sure you guys have all noticed, like, don't really do that much body focused stuff anymore. I am just reading poetry about being on the spectrum sometimes, and that's the stuff that really makes me feel happy. So just be true to yourself. And it's also really good to note that online isn't forever, and it's not a forever career. I mean, maybe it could be. I don't know. I know there are some people that have been doing this for a very long time, especially people in the beauty space and the YouTube space. And people, they'll use this as a jumping board to become authors and presenters and, all of that. But I do think that the influencer thing, I hate that word, content creator, whatever, it is a hamster wheel of constant creation, and you can't stay on that forever. So if you are thinking about sharing things, I'd say do it. I'd say do it without any expectations, because having that kind of accidental, authentic journey will really resonate with people. And you've got to just, also, you're not famous. Doesn't matter how many followers you have, you're self-publishing, and that's not fame. And I think people need to just remember that. And, because this is just a little burst in my universe. It's a little beautiful spark that's happening right now, but I'm very unattached to it in the way that I don't know how long this will last. But for the time that it's here, I'm so happy to connect and help as much as I can. But being unattached to it, I think, is what makes this easy for me, because if it all goes, it all goes. I don't know if that makes any sense. Yeah. Okay. But to answer your question, sorry, the hesitations. because it was accidental, and it's always been, all my viral videos have always been completely accidental. There haven't been hesitations because it's just flowed. Yeah, I think that's probably my honest answer there. How do you give yourself grace after a lull in your fitness journey? Hard, hard. But I think if you can rewire that or rethink it or rejig it in your mind as how beautiful to have a chance to start at something again and learn something again. Like, I'm in a place where I'm building back and I feel like I'm at the very beginning of my running journey again, and I'm loving it. Do you know how wonderful it is to feel like 5K is a long way to run? I've got more energy, I'm sleeping better. I just feel the less I'm doing, the better I feel at the moment. And there are times in my life where I feel like the more I'm doing, the better I feel. But it's honoring both. So a lull doesn't necessarily have to be a lull. It can just be a lesson, or it can be a blessing. It can be a way of reframing, am I doing too much? Is this a chance to slow down and rethink and learn something about fitness and see if there's any new hobbies I could try? I tried cycling, for example, hated it. Really wish I could like it, but I can't. And I'm glad I don't, because it's really expensive and it feels quite inaccessible. So, yeah. Okay. How do you deal with feeling guilty on rest days, seeing others train so restless on rest days? See, I love rest days. I've always loved rest days. Um, I guess, I suppose, because again of social media, it's difficult to um, be on the sofa, I suppose, and seeing your mate be like, just did a casual half marathon. That can be difficult sometimes because, we are fed that to achieve is, that's all we have to be doing, is constantly achieving. But I think you can tell by my tone in this podcast that I'm really sick of that. And actually, I think rest is so yummy. And knowing that, there's so much power in being like, actually, fuck off. I'm going to lay on the sofa and I'm going to have a proper rest day. Muscle is built at rest. Recovery happens at rest. You need rest in order to be your best self, but also rest is productive. Like it really is. I'm having so many moments now where I'm like, oh my God, I miss this. Like, instead of going out and doing my marathon training at 8 p.m., I'm on the sofa with a candle reading a comic book and just loving every second of it. Like, rest is so great. And again, I think that's tied into the fear of going backwards, the fear of not achieving, the fear of, I don't know, control, right? And I just think, guys, like, release a little bit of that. We're not on this earth to control ourselves, constantly be in a rat race. There are times where it is okay to just chill. It's fine. I know that's all we're fed is like, go, 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 go. But I'm telling you, honestly, the happiest people I know, my mates and family friends and family members, are the ones that chill the most. And yeah, they're like, keep fit and active, but you know, like, I'm imagining someone in their dressing gown, waking up late on a Sunday, putting the fire on, having some croissants with your loved ones. Like, is that not fabulous? Is that not wonderful? And yeah, do I want to run an ultra marathon through the Sahara Desert? Yes. Do I also want to be in a dressing gown until 2 p.m. on a Sunday? Yeah. The two can exist together, and just allowing them both to be there is really, really wonderful. Okay. There's a lot of questions here about medical stuff that I can't discuss, I'm afraid. PCOS, lipedema. 'Cause I'm not a doctor, but you can ask your GP for advice on anything to do with medical issues. How to order non-alcoholic drinks when you're out. So I love this question. I'm a party girl. I'm going out after this. Okay. There was a time in my life where I didn't allow myself to go out because I couldn't be around alcohol. I've now come full circle, thankfully, and I feel no way towards alcohol at all. Doesn't even bother me. Obviously, I don't drink, but I'm able to now be around it, and I'm really proud of being alcohol free, because one of my favorite things is I think people look at me and they assume a lot of things about me, and to be well spoken. First of all, people never ever think that's going to be the case because obviously I'm tattooed and muscular and all that stuff. But also to be alcohol free, because I think a lot of people look at me and they think, she's a rock and roll girl. And then I'm like, just a Diet Coke, please. Own it. Honestly, own it. I think being sober is one of the coolest things. I know it doesn't feel very cool. I feel like it is. Whenever I meet or talk to other sober people, they've usually got really interesting stories. They've usually overcome addiction, or they're just trying to do something for themselves. They're not necessarily, have had any problems with alcohol, but they're just taking a step back. It's a very interesting topic, and usually people have a story to tell you. And I think just own it. Tell your mates, I'm going to the pub tonight for my friends' leaving drinks. They all love a wine. They love a wine. And what matters to them is that I'm there, not that I'm drinking. It's that I'm there. I had friends who fell away because they were just drinking buddies and they're not really friends. And I don't mourn them because I don't think we had a relationship. I think we just liked to drink together because it was like you were just enabling each other. But my real mates, I projected a lot of my own insecurities about being sober, that I thought it bothered them. But what bothered them is that I wasn't around anymore. So own it. I think mocktails are brilliant. If it floats your boat, energy drinks are what I used to do because I wanted a little something to make me feel something. Obviously, probably shouldn't encourage people to drink energy drinks. I don't drink them anymore, but there are so many amazing mocktails. There's so many amazing alcohol-free beers that sometimes I'll put it on my story, like a glass of beer, and it doesn't have the can, so it doesn't say zero. And people are like, "Oh my God, are you drinking?" I'm like, "No." So, if you feel self-conscious about it, you could always ask for alcohol-free drinks that look like drinks, and then just throw away the can and have it in a glass, and people will think you're drinking. I did a lot of like secret sober stuff for a while where people would like pass me tequilas and I'd be like over the shoulder, or I would be the one to get the round in so that I knew that I could ask for a gin and tonic without the gin and then just sit down, because sometimes it's not worth the bother, is it, of people being like, why aren't you drinking? So that would be my advice. Own it. It's cool. Sobriety is so cool. Like, it's groovy, I promise. So own it. Loads of questions around food. I've done loads of episodes about food and what I ate to lose weight and all that stuff. It's incredibly nuanced. It's a very long story, guys. So I wish I could give you a menu. I will say that my diet is different every single day. And I have some weird things I like with food and some weird things I don't like with food. And I'm having some problems with allergies at the moment due to stress. So I wouldn't say my diet's one that I would want anyone to emulate, because we all need completely different foods. We could eat and train exactly the same and have completely different outcomes. So always remember that your food is your food, and your diet and your preferences are valid and should always stay that way and shouldn't be influenced by what you see online. Of course, it's good to have inspiration, and nutritional information is all out there. There's amazing nutritionists online now. The Food Medic, is it Emily the Nutritionist, I believe, just come out with a book. They're brilliant, informative, wonderful people. Go seek them out. But I'm not a nutritionist, unfortunately, and what I eat won't help anyone because we're all so different. I was going to shy away from this one, but I would like to answer it because it's a difficult one, and it ends with no hate at all, which is always, it's going to be a good one. So, do you think you'd be as successful if you were doing all you're doing now, but in a larger body? Only because the world values thinness and it's so ingrained, and it's an interesting thing to reconcile. Just generally curious about your thoughts re the issue. So, the world values thinness above all else when it comes to women, thinness and beauty, right? And there's been so many studies done on, things like pay, success related to thinness, and how the two go hand in hand. And it is a really difficult topic for me to talk about because I am athletic, or look athletic because I am athletic and I'm into athletics, and my career is to run and to move and to motivate and inspire others to run and move and lift. My cognitive health, the way that I do this podcast, the way that I am able to run a business, is all due to my journey. So I wouldn't be doing the things that I do now if I was still living the lifestyle that I was before. But I absolutely could do this all in a larger body, because people forget, but thinness is not health. And being in a larger body does not mean you are unhealthy. It also doesn't mean that you can't run or can't do anything. You can do absolutely anything you want at any size. And you also don't owe people health. This is another thing that used to really, really irk me, was the amount of concern that everyone always used to have around my weight. And it felt so, because I was not in a place to change. And it felt so onerous and strange that people were viewing me and my body in a way that was to judge me for my health just because of my size and my ability to do things because of my size. My weight had nothing to do with it. And the weight I lost was a byproduct of the life that I live now and how I've found purpose in what I do. And it will always fluctuate and change, but there is a societal privilege that I'm acutely aware of to do with the way that women look. And I wish I could say that I wasn't aware, but I am. And it does make me incredibly sad, because it makes me very sad for past Cassia. And actually, there's a song that's just come out by Billie Eilish. I'm sure you've all heard it by now, called Skinny. And the lyric is, people think I look happy just because I got skinny, but the real me's the old me, and I think she's pretty. And yeah, that broke my heart, that one. But you can do anything at any size, genuinely. I just, for my own personal health and well-being and addictions and wanting to find movement, this is how I am now. And I know that this is a really uncomfortable topic to speak about, but as someone who has existed my whole life up until a few years ago in a larger body, I'm very passionate about, you're worthy of love at any size and at any stage. And for some people, I think the pursuit of weight loss stops them from living. Like, I think it actually takes away from success for a lot of people. None of my female friends, apart from the ones I have in the industry, are into fitness or are, lean, or, they have different careers, from property to art to, gosh, running members clubs. And like, it's not something that's tied into their job, and they're happy and successful. And, it's not necessary at all, but it's an uncomfortable one, because I know that the issue is there. So I hope that answers that question. It's hard not to skirt around it, isn't it? Because it is, it's sad, and it makes me feel very sad for me. But I had a career before this, and I'm sure I'll have a career after. And I'm using my body now to do the things I do, but maybe one day I won't want to anymore. Maybe I'll just sit here and write books and write poetry and eat bread and cheese. And then things will change, won't they? But I'm sure everyone will still love me because of the words that I say. So I do feel a lot more self-assured in that now, less pressure on myself for sure. How do you get past loneliness and get your confidence back? Man, if you have the answer, let me know. We were just, Lucy Davis was just on the podcast, and she was saying how her calmness, her anxiety is always calmed by people. So she's got her sister and her mum and dad and her fiance, her husband. And I would say that it's very similar with me, that people, it is my calm space. But I remember when she was saying that, I was thinking, God, but I'm still so lonely. Like, there's always a loneliness in me that I just don't know if I'll ever get rid of. I think that loneliness will, like, I could be in the busiest room full of people who know who I am even, and feel lonely. I think some people are just born like that. I think because there's so much going on in my brain all the time, and so many different voices and so much like darkness, that it can feel really isolating. Like, I'm stuck and trapped, and I don't know how to make it be quiet sometimes. That's very lonely, and that's very isolating. And it doesn't matter how many people are around me, because I don't think they'll ever be able to truly understand just how much is going on for me all the time and how much masking I do. So if you know the answer to that one, guys, maybe you could message me and let me know, because I don't think I'll ever get rid of the loneliness, you know? And weirdly, the more that I meet people, the lonelier I feel. It's weird, isn't it? But I will say that belonging I have found in community has changed my life, but also getting to know myself and trusting myself and becoming my own friend has been life changing as well. And I do feel less lonely because of that too. But it's difficult. It's difficult. So many cute messages, I have to say. Lots of questions around kids, which, if it's all right, I don't think it's a bit of a tricky question. You never know. You never know someone's health. So it's always a weird question to ask women, I find, unless you know that they're trying or you know that they can. Yeah. Okay, Jackie asks, how did you manage to build a team of 17? Did you get mentors and investors to help? I didn't have any investors. I've never had any investors in my business. I've never taken any investment. I literally started it from my phone. And I used WhatsApp and Canva to make coaching programs. And it started as just me. It was just me for 6 months. And then I realized it could be something bigger. So naturally, I then started hiring other specialists to help the clients. Then I hired a manager, another manager, then a head coach, other running specialists. We now have mental fitness psychiatrists, psychologists. I mean, there's lots of people that work within my business. And obviously, the podcast has producers, editors, social media people. It just grew as it did. I think the beautiful thing about business nowadays, and for young people, what's so empowering is that you can start a business without overheads. So you can do this online thing, and all you need is your phone. And I think most people have phones nowadays. But in the olden days, of course, you'd have to have investment into stock or investment into rent, premises, whatever it is, materials. But now, we can start these things online, and there's been an awful lot of good timing and luck when it comes to me. And I've had some real nasty experiences over the last few years. Usual business stuff that that's difficult. And everyone who runs a business will know it's hard to find your people, but you will. And you will know when the right time comes to grow, because you won't be able to do it on your own anymore. But that momentum, I think you should just naturally. Business is a very, I can feel the energy of 444. So I know, like, it's almost like it's like a buzz. And I know when it's really buzzing, and I know when it's like, the energy is there and it's happening and it's working. And I know when it's falling a little bit dull and I need to inject some more energy into it. It's like a feeling that you get for your little baby. When you are an entrepreneur, you'll just know. It's so strange. It's like second nature to you. And you'll know when people need to come in and help. But mentor wise, I have a couple people who I go to if I have questions. They're people I've just met through the industry, but they're not anyone who's helped me with my business. I am very proud to say that I did start it on my own. No one in my family is a trainer or has any experience in the fitness space or coaching space or anything. This has been just me. And a lot of people, or some people, do like to try to put me down and say that I, had whatever I had, but I didn't actually. It was all me. And I know that is uncomfortable for some people, but I hope that you can see it as inspiring and not as uncomfortable, because it's been a really wild ride. It's been a lot of hard work. So, yeah. Advice for pulling yourself out of the disassociation feeling that anxiety creates. Love you. Love you too. So I've been struggling with something really weird, depersonalization, which, when I'm in a really stressed, heightened state, I start to disassociate and feel like nothing's really real. Which can be very scary. It's really common. I think it's common for a lot of people who suffer with depression. You start feeling like you're not even a real person. It's so weird. Even to the point where I start feeling really numb. It's so weird. But that's just like physical stress, which I am getting help for. Don't worry, guys. I feel like I don't want anyone to think like I am good. I'm in a good space. I just wanted to be honest in this Q&A. But number one for this, I would say, is get off your screen, get off your phone. No looking at other people, no doom scrolling. Go and lie on the floor. That's my immediate thing. I put my hand on my chest, I go lie on the floor. And I focus on my breathing. And I try to feel my heartbeat. Touching your fingers like this is another really good one. Tapping your face, tapping your chakras. That's another really good one. If you have the energy and your anxiety isn't too bad, going for a walk or going for a run or doing something physical with your body pulls me straight out of disassociation. I would say those would be my biggest tips, but it's really, really difficult, especially in heightened states of stress, to pull yourself out of those. Is spending life chasing self-development healthy, or is it not being content with yourself? I love this question so much. I am very passionate about this. So I think right now, people are obsessed with optimal this, optimal that, optimize your life, self-improve, Don't eat oats because they're this. The optimal breakfast is actually whatever. I think as a woman who has figured out some stuff, but also a woman who is a messy rat girl sometimes. And I really do lean into that part of myself because I am a messy, big feeling, artistic kind of person. And this whole self-improvement thing or self-development can become really toxic because you can't self-develop yourself into a perfect being and you can't run away from your problems by being optimal about whatever. You can improve your life greatly. You can save your life even by focusing on self-development. But unless you allow margin for purposeful messiness and rat girl swamp days, I don't think you're living life, in my opinion. I think this idea of like optimizing or always improving doesn't lend itself to a very fulfilled life. Like, I know that there are some people who are completely obsessed with performance. I've got friends who are very into cycling and they are like, dude, everything is weighed by the gram on the bike. Every morsel of food they put into their mouth is weighed. That makes them happy. They are obsessed with optimal performance. They are obsessed with self-improvement. I would argue for me to have a happy life, I need to have messy days. I need to have big, messy feelings. I need to dig into a big bowl of pasta sometimes because I want to. And then I want to sit on the sofa all day, on a Saturday, and that's okay. The idea that like there's this clean, perfect, optimal life that somehow you're going to like elevate yourself, constantly elevating yourself into, it doesn't exist. It's not real. That kind of like Valhalla that we're all chasing, it doesn't exist. And I think that self-improvement's actually meant to be really messy too, because there will be a lot of mistakes and a lot of tears. And just allowing that to happen could be the self that you need if you feel like you are stuck spending life chasing self-development, then allowing yourself to be messy could be life-changing, I think. So no, I don't think it is healthy personally. No, I don't think it is. I think self-improvement's wonderful and I'm constantly trying to do it. But self-improvement can also sometimes look like going backwards and letting go a little bit as well. Self-improvement can also look like training for an ultra, the two go hand in hand. And that's a really, really beautiful thing. Okay, I'm going to end on a random question. If you could hug your younger childlike self and tell her one sentence, what would it be? Don't shrink yourself for other people. Because in the end, that's what's going to be your power. Because I spent all of my teenage years shrinking and masking for other people and being made fun of because whenever I showed the true cracks of like big feelings or really being so passionate about things, it's not cool. But that's your power. Lean into what you love and love it with all your might and hold it with both hands. Hold it so tightly. I love nothing more than seeing people queued up for concerts in like handmade merch. I love seeing people so passionate about what they do that it makes them cry. I love humans and I love life. And I wish I could tell my younger self that like it's okay to cry and it's okay to feel things so deeply and it's not embarrassing and there's no shame in it and it might get you in trouble for a few years, but you're gonna pull through. And that is a really, really beautiful thing. Okay, I'll end it there. I'm gonna read you my poem. I just thought I'd end the season on my own words. So this poem is called The Momentum Method. When I was 25, I held my grief at the bottom of a bottle of vodka. I held it in droplets of blood, in smashed mirrors in the tiny toilet of my first apartment, in yellow, smoke-stained fingers, and humans who treated me like I wasn't one. Now, at 30, I hold it in the trees I start to notice, and the rippled shadows they cast, in salty freckled skin and miles underfoot. I hold it in momentum, in method, in the giddy, childlike realization that we all have hidden wings, delicate and translucent and waiting. But still I hold my grief. Perhaps my arms are stronger now, perhaps I no longer ignore it. Pain transmutes to change if you let it. Great adventures often start with the sharp wincing, noticing. I am human and I will live. So that's my poem. I hope you like it. Well, that's it for season 2, guys. I can't believe it. What a season. Yeah. Thank you so much for listening and for giving me your time and your ears and your energy. It's been a wild ride and I look forward to revealing everything that's going to come in the next season after my little hiatus. I love you all so dearly. So dearly. You will never know what you guys have done for me in helping create this podcast. And I just thank you. I'm not going to go on. Thank you very much for listening. This has been 9 Live Season 2. Until next time, I love you.